So we're continuing on with the topic of the week, which is one of the Eightfold Path in the Pali language, samadhi, also translated in many ways, and we've been talking about it for the last over the last week. But I like the translation inward collectedness, but the most common translation is concentration. So it's possible that you might feel a tension when you experience different meditation practices instructions. In more mainstream mindfulness instructions, we're being told that our thoughts are fine, but when thoughts arise, we should return to the breath or another focus object. For many people, this can create a quiet or maybe not so quiet confusion. So if thoughts are fine, why do we have to keep leaving them? Um, and it can begin to feel like thinking is second class, that it's allowed, but it's not really the practice. But then there's something else going on. Modern psychology, oh, there's many other things going on actually, but this one is that modern psychology and neuroscience are telling us something very different. Mind wandering, as there's been quite a bit written about mind wandering and the benefits of mind wandering lately. And it's associated with creativity, problem solving, planning in a good sense of the word, and meaning making. So it can seem like a double message because in daily life outside of meditation, mind wandering is valuable and maybe it's even necessary for creativity and insight. But in meditation, it's something we're supposed to minimize. Now, in reflective meditation, of course, we value mind wandering. It's actually inherently part of our practice. It just happens. When you let your mind be as it is, it wanders. Not always, but some of the time. So, which one then is correct? So, this contradiction can sort of begin to dissolve or not be so dominant when we consider that there's different intentions behind the different practices. So traditional or mainstream meditation is what it's doing is training attentional stability. It asks whether the mind can stay, whether it can settle, whether it can become steady on the object with the intent to see more clearly. So in that context, mind wandering um, is not really a failure because it's natural, but it's not what's being cultivated during that period of meditation practice. Now, reflective meditation, we're asking a different question. We're considering what is the mind doing? How are thoughts and emotions and reactions conditioned? And again, that is the part of the practice we're really focusing on. That is the part of the Dharma we're focusing on. And what patterns in the language of Pali, what sankharas are unfolding over time. In that context, thinking is not considered a distraction or something we're trying to turn away from when we practice reflective meditation, but it's really part of the practice. So maybe we're not really looking at thinking versus not thinking. Maybe we're looking at instead different uses of awareness. Sati, in other words, awareness. In one case, in more mainstream or traditional meditation, awareness is stabilizes on an object. In reflective meditation, awareness tracks experience over time. Now, both require a certain amount of samadhi, a certain amount of inward collectedness, a certain amount of focus or concentration. But the shape of that collectedness is different. When we see this, there's not so much of a contradiction because meditation is many different things. That's right there in our basic instructions. that's posted on or at least Pine Street Sangha website. It says this may not seem like meditation, but consider it's a different meditation with different benefits. It's really what I'm talking about here. Um, so it's really meditation is a set of practices that develop different kinds of human capacities. So then the question shifts. It's less about whether thinking is good or bad, or more what the practice is trying to cultivate. So, from a reflective meditation perspective, thinking becomes valuable when it is seen, remembered, and understood, not when we are simply lost in it, which we will be at times, of course, but then hopefully we can reflect on it and learn from it, which is why that 10 minutes of reflection time is so built into our practice, really so essential to the practice. Although some of this can happen while we're meditating, this remembering and learning from it, it, we set aside a specific time period for that to happen. And this really requires samadhi, a mind that it requires us being able to stay with experience, remember it, reconstruct it, and learn from it. And that takes a deeply collected mind. So perhaps a better way of talking about what this whole topic is, rather than thinking of it as a contradiction, I like the metaphor of there's different doorways into understanding the mind. And perhaps right samadhi on the Eightfold Path is not necessarily about thinking there's only one correct doorway, but recognizing that there are many ways the mind can become gathered, steady, and capable of seeing clearly. Though from my point of view, it's challenging to try to learn and practice both forms of meditation at the same time, say in the same meditation period, or maybe back and forth different times you're meditating this week with different groups or on your own. Because they do enter through different doorways and they enter into different rooms, let's say, if we're going to follow the metaphor. Now, I agree, both have value. But personally, in my meditation practice, I can't do both. I needed to choose. And it does seem as though most people choose mainstream meditation. And I've wondered about that and reflected about that over time. And these are just a couple of thoughts, but maybe their minds really do incline that way, where my mind didn't. I always enjoyed the free form and the insights that came that I had no idea that were going to come, the mystery of that. But also maybe it's just because it really is what's considered legitimate meditation. I think in some people's minds we're considered illegitimate. I don't know about that. But I'm sure maybe there's some truth to both of these views, that people's minds incline that way and it's considered legitimate meditation. But I'm sure there's lots more reasons that I couldn't come up with when I was thinking out this and writing this talk. But what's clear to me is that I have chosen reflective meditation and that many or most of you have chosen it as well. So let's do it. Let's do some meditation. I recognize you all, so we're going to just